Well, looks like we're here now. And if you've clicked on this video, then you probably know what's at stake here. You probably know by now what I'm going to say about this. We're in a good place right now. Today's January 30th, 2022. Almost a whole month has passed since I basically made as big of a point as possible when it comes to the year 2021 being the worst we've ever had, period. And with so many pieces of evidence to back it all up, there's just no way that anybody out there could go as far to call 2020 the worst year ever when there's literally all kinds of proof all over the place. You know what though? I'm just gonna get started here by just saying 2022 so far has actually been good. Really good, actually. Like, never would I have expected this to turn up again. A couple years ago, I had pretty much the same sort of feeling. It was a bit different at the time though, because the start of 2020 meant the start of a whole new decade. I treated it like a high-class event at the time. A decadal party was what I intended to hold on to, but because I had such a late night shift going on to the Marcus Theaters Corporation, it's fair to say I couldn't really do that. So I instead just stuck around, even after my shift was already over, which was, of course, before midnight, December 31st, 2019, and, well, the thing is, 2020 was basically the start of a whole new decade, a whole new slew of opportunities, and a rather impressive, lengthy period to where we could have whatever we felt like. Inventions would sprout all over the place, progression would show up all over the place, and we'd begin to see the advancements of civilization before our very eyes. But little did we know, or should I rather say, what we do know about it already is that a pandemic came by. Within 4 months of the year 2020, people never saw it as something that actually would have been good by all means. But I much rather digress by all means possible. Because considering the stuff that happened in 2020, I could count all the bad stuff on one hand. Mostly has to do with the politics, but if I wanted to go ahead and summarize all 5 of the different things out there that I know were bad about 2020, it would be the fact, at first, we of course have the nCoV pandemic 2019 to 2022, and then we have the death of George Floyd. Obviously. And then the third thing, of course, would be the fact that, well, this was Donald Trump's last year of presidency. So, politics, all about that. Weirdo. And then, of course, the fact that, well, I had at the time lost a few of my jobs there. Just a few, at least. I got to hold on to a handful of others that I had at the time, even though they were way before the minimum of part-time. And then, of course, the fifth and final thing was the fact that there were just a bunch of lies. No doubt about it. 2020 has its faults, but think about all the stuff that I've talked about the year 2021. I not only need 5 fingers to describe everything, but I also need my other hand, both of my feet, and probably all 32 of my teeth. Yeah, I got all 4 wisdom teeth all in, no problem at all. So, let's just say, first of all, I definitely consider 2021 to be the worst year of all time. And I've made countless reviews, especially on Quora, about this. Quora Digest, you better know that I'm simply going to say 2021 is the worst year ever, and there's a lot of factual evidence about it to back it all up. But when it comes to the year 2020, I mean, even to this day, I'm still very much baffled. about how many people are going to call it the worst year ever when that's not even close to true. When there's all kinds of proof about 2021 in comparison, how on earth can you even sleep at night? How on earth can y'all live with yourself? So you know what? I feel like I'm done with that stuff. So at this point in time, consider me talking about all the good stuff that happened in 2020 instead of all the bad stuff for change. Even though I just highlighted all 5 of those things that were bad about it. 5. Meanwhile, I actually spent a little time to come up with a list for the top 50 reasons, well, not necessarily in particular order, but let's just say the top, 50 amazing highlights that occurred in the year 2020. Beginning with number 1, business got better. And when I'm talking about the business, I'm meaning Kaiji Force Neo. End of story. And there's a lot of reasons for this, and that's pretty much going to count for the other 49 reasons, which I'll go ahead and talk about now. The second thing about 2020 that was good was the fact I had a courier job. Basically, especially during the first few months of the pandemic with the lockdowns and stay-at-home orders, I got a few unique job opportunities down the line. And as a result, I was able to make a lot of extra money. I mean a lot. A lot of these new jobs I picked up throughout spring and summer of 2020 were basically better paying than the majority of other jobs I've had at the time. Marcus Theaters, Dollar Tree, I mean really, how on earth could that get any better? Well, in all honesty, the third reason is a pay raise at URG. URG, or Urban Rural Groundskeeping, which was basically a lineup within Kaiji Force Neo that I started dedicated to lawn care, groundskeeping, private contracting, and all that good stuff. Anything that would be associated with a lot of outdoor work / cleanup. I basically ended up getting a 20% pay raise within all the clients that I've had in that entire business. So if you were to do the math, then that's basically a lot of extra money. A 20% raise. That's outstanding to me. Number 4, Mandalorian Season 2. And yeah, for the record, we all know that The Mandalorian started up alongside the release of Disney Plus in November 2019. But the truth is that the November 2020 season, the second season of the series, was just unbelievable. We got to see a lot of amazing adventures with Pedro Pascal's character, the Mandalorian, along with the child, Baby Yoda, as some people have affectionately called this new character, whom eventually is revealed to be called Grogu. Yeah, Grogu. Very similar sounding to Rogu, Roger Smith's baby. Like, I don't know if that's coincidental, but man, that's literally what came to mind the first time I heard the name Grogu on that screen. Number 5, peak season at the Marcus Theaters Corporation. And yeah, I know I lost the job in the Marcus Theaters Corporation during the pandemic, but the thing is, the first 3 to 4 months that had taken place at the time were practically peak season. Billions of dollars worth for different movies that were released at the time. From Bad Boys for Life, which is basically the long-awaited sequel to the other 2 Bad Boys films with Martin Lawrence and Will Smith, and not to mention Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. Who could ever forget the film adaptation of The Call of the Wild and a handful of other fantastic films I've gotten to see before the theater closed down for the first time. And when you really think about it though, this was also a time where I got to have the most hours at the Marcus Theaters Corporation when it comes to my work. On a mere daily basis was when it happened, and up to 7 hours a day. That's almost comparable to that of most full-time jobs where most 9-to-5 workers can pretty much give 40 hours a week. Meanwhile, I was kicking it a bit higher than that, especially with how much business had grown. So that's just pretty much what that's all about there. Number 6, mental training. When the pandemic first happened, it was a big surprise. But unsurprisingly, this was something that I had to have anticipated at some point because I've known about SARS. I've known about the bird flu. I've known about Ebola. I've known about whatever pandemic has come by because we've had the chance to experience these things. We've had at least one certain random encounter with these kinds of viruses and bacterial strains. So I found it to be 0 bits of surprise that we were going to be having another pandemic. And I myself, I'm more than depressed about what's happened. But it's not just because of these new viral strains. It's because of a lot of other things. So you know what? I'll go ahead and maybe talk a bit more about that right away. So a lot of awful things have pretty much happened regarding how people react to the virus's mortality rates, react to the case numbers, react to the so-called flatten the curve plan. I mean, there's really a lot of people who want to present a lot of counter arguments just to make themselves look and feel better when they're not. They're not the rulers of planet Earth. And there's no higher being. There's no God. Shut up! Gosh. Oh my gosh, like, it's just insane the way I see it. Y'all should go into a freaking asylum for this stuff. Okay, well, trying my best to calm down here because it's gotten consistently worse though in 2021 compared to 2020 with a lot of all this kinds of drama that people try and bring up. I really hate it. But one year is obviously worse than the other, so my answer is very obvious to you, hopefully. But number 7 would be great movies. As I previously established with the fact that I've had the peak season at Marcus Theaters throughout the first few months of 2020, as I've said before, there were a lot of great movies that I was able to get to see. There was Sonic the Hedgehog with Jim Carrey, and then of course there was The Call of the Wild, Birds of Prey, Bad Boys for Life. But as the year went on, we actually got ourselves a handful of other great films out there. We got to have a lot of things out there that were originally planned for a release in 2020, but have since gotten themselves re-releases in recent times, like Black Widow, James Bond, No Time to Die, and Bad Trip. I tell you, there were a lot of films that had originally been slated for some release in 2020, but had since been moved. I mean, why re-release them when you could just release them on various platforms like HBO Max, Peacock, Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, etc.? I'll never understand that. I'll never understand why they don't just release them on these platforms rather than try to wait for the theaters to come back up when it's pretty obvious that that's not going to happen. Ever, pretty much. Number 8 would be the fact that I had a New Year's celebration take place. Again, I stuck around at the Marcus Theaters for as long as possible, even though my shift was over a little earlier than I expected. December 31st, 2019 was a big deal because it was a happy new decade. And yet what was disappointing about that, as a matter of fact, another good reason to put together the fact that 2019 was not that good of a year, debatably bad by all means, is the fact that people keep saying Happy New Year and not Happy New Decade. It's December 31st, 2019. The start of a new decade ends on the day tomorrow. Man, like I can't even imagine what December 31st, 2029 will be like. The year 2030. Are you not going to say Happy New Decade then? Gosh, like I freaking hate that when people do this type of stuff here. So anyways, let's just go ahead and move on to number 9, GWK content. Because there's GWK all over the place pretty much, and 2020 was a pretty busy time for that. Because GWK Season 4 was in its last leg throughout the entire month of January 2020, and then afterwards in May 2020 all the way through December of 2020 there was GWK Mainline Season 5, which had over 500 episodes attached to it. And then of course there was Face Cam Special Insurgents, Part 3 and Part 4 throughout 2020. So compared to 2021 though, 2020 was not necessarily that busy. At most there was maybe like 4 or 5 pieces of GWK related content that appeared on the channel throughout that entire year. But then again, we're basically looking at something even bigger and better ahead of us. 2022, I will tell you, It's certainly not necessarily going to be as busy as 2021, and that's probably going to be for the benefit of the doubt, pretty much. Because now let's go ahead and talk a bit about reason number 10. Liquidation begins anew. Now, inventory liquidation. If you're familiar with my eBay page, JNowak80, which is in fact still going around, I originally wanted to delete this eBay page of mine and maybe start a new account related to collecting Hot Wheels and Nerf and a lot of other things pretty much that I could potentially get my hands on in the future for content that would be within the next decade or so. But apparently, beginning as far as February 2020 was when I started to get some mass attention going on. And 2020, as I will point out right away, actually did have some stuff happening to it. It appears that a lot of people were wanting to move on to digital purchases as opposed to in-store purchases, mostly because of the lockdowns, mostly because of some people refusing to wear a mask, mostly because people wanted to refuse a vaccine and never try to do anything that they think is just irrational and in doubt. But the fact is, apparently, people were shopping online a little more than ever nowadays. And even to this day, I can't help but notice that sometimes there are messages that pop up on my feed relating to Twitter, relating to Instagram, relating to my YouTube private messages, and then of course there are the many things that happen on my e-commerce platform accounts of all sorts. But it's important to know that inventory liquidation began a lot bigger than it used to be in 2019. At the same time I started my eBay account in April 2019, I also went on ahead to begin selling some stuff of mine just to make a little extra cash. And it turns out in 2020, people started to pretty much purchase my stuff a little bit more often. But 2021, however, I will have to admit, is where the season relating to that was at its peak level. So, by all means, I'm more than just grateful for the fact that people are buying my stuff left and right, whether it's an auction or buy it now or something that they'd have to put up a good offer on. But by all means, I'm still grateful for all that stuff. After all, I've made maybe $7,000 in the past couple of years, not just with selling my own stuff, but also with helping other people sell their own stuff. So, liquidation's been giving me a big chance to expand my horizons, begin to help people I know and love with their stuff. And I tell you, everybody wins when you have something like this going on. Number 11 would be the fact that George Floyd's death, as tragic, as horrible, and as impossible to believe as it may be, it actually is more than just a tragedy. More than just something that happened. More than just a bad memory. It is in fact a symbol of justice and equity. It's a time where we are not going to take any of this stuff relating to racism, sexism, misogyny, and a lot of other things. Of course, a lot of these other things relating to offense based on other parts of people's backgrounds, they do have their own things happening, but BLM, yeah, pretty much, but Black Lives Matter, hashtag Black Lives Matter, I should probably go and imply, was basically started many years prior. It was not at all because of the death of George Floyd that gave us an opportunity to take a stand and just continue our legacy, to keep racial equity and justice secure. It started many years prior, before the deaths of various other people of all sorts. Even Eric Garner, from summer 2014. BLM was founded a whole year prior to this because of various things relating to police brutality that somehow continues to the present day, when we supposedly eliminated that by the end of the 90s. We really wanted to get rid of corruption that badly. And it did seem like we were in the clear. But little did we realize that it actually did continue even after all these years. And we just never realized it. But if you were to take a chance to go look deeper into the many things that we've documented over the years, BLM really is an amazing site, an amazing organization that does nothing except to help others whom are crying for help, whom are begging for each and every single ounce of support from everybody. BLM is going to be here until the end of time, and not only am I going to continue my part into doing all this to tell the whole world that BLM really is in fact a good organization, and they are in fact not a group of rioters who have broken into stores, stolen property, and murdered other people, as people have claimed them to be. All the lies and fake news that have circulated around over the past few years have been ruthlessly endearing by all means. Yet we are going to find a way to work around this and conquer each and every single bit of mind. Now, when talking about many of the other reasons right here, I might as well just go ahead and breeze them through, because at the rate that I'm talking through some of these, it's probably not necessarily going to be, well, easy, but yet, you know what? Let's just go ahead and go through the other 39 reasons that I have situated. Number 12, driving skill improvement. Number 13, song downloads. Number 14, equipment upgrades. Number 15, isolation at home, obviously. Number 16, befitting opportunities. Number 17, making new friends. Number 18, multiple streaming accounts. Number 19, checking on friends and family, of course. Number 20, countrywide travels that would pretty much take place, with numbers 21, 22, and 23 being based on the 3 main trips that we took. The ECU in Carolina, Fort Myers, Florida, as well as Indianapolis and Carmel, Indiana. And then, of course, there's habits/hobbies that I've developed for reason number 24. Number 25 would be a change of scenery with various things like my phone background and laptop background. I got to experiment with a lot of things here and there. Then 26, home improvement projects. 27, self-actualization. Number 28, fancying decorating. Number 29, getting to know myself a little bit more. Number 30, the official Kaiju Force Neo PlayStation Network account. Yeah, I basically had that for a while. The Star Medicine Man PlayStation account, as you might already know, is now officially a Kaiju Force Neo branded PlayStation account. So do be sure to check me out at some point. Number 31, of course, is relating to different PlayStation things that I had once I got Star Medicine Man changed to Kaiju Force Neo. Number 32, film reviews become more abundant. Number 33, stepping outside my own comfort zone. Number 34, health studies. Number 35, revisiting different memories. 36, differentiation between the past and the present. 37, communication improvement. 38, celebration of life based on Samson the Pug, since Samson the Pug had died in April 2020. 39, nice weather, as well. It was obviously a lot better than what we've been going through in recent times. Number 40, revisiting the old days. So, not just my memories, but also getting to know a lot more about history as a whole. 41, discovery of obscured shows online, which is something that I typically do every now and then anyways, with a process known as revisitation lapses, which, similar to eclipses, similar to leap years, similar to most holidays that you don't necessarily get every year, this is pretty much something that I will officially declare to be a particularly good event. 42, PS2, PS4 title collecting. Number 43, Hot Wheels collecting. Number 44, Nerf Blaster collecting. Number 45, less suffering in life. Number 46, career development. 47, crazy purchases. 48, restaurant visits, especially the ones I've never seen before in my life. Number 49, pro-life tips, especially with various lifestyle experts that I've gotten to know about at a personal level. And then finally, number 50, universal creativity. So, at the end of the day, it might seem lousy to you. It probably could have been better maybe if I were to do 10 or 15 reasons, but to be a bit more branching out, to be a bit more creative, and to be a bit more broad in terms of how my mind could possibly describe all the stuff that had happened in 2020 in comparison to what we've been going through nowadays, it just seems to be that we are in fact going to be in such a position like this for some time. Here in 2022, it's possible we'll probably have maybe a few bad things happen, but as I've said before, 2020 only has like a handful of these things, and 2021 has way more than two handfuls, or footfuls, or a mouthful combined. So I could pretty much be way more serious than this, because I honestly could have done a lot more based on my top 50 reasons why 2021 is the worst year of all time video from about a month ago now. Considering that it's been that long already, I'm pretty much not surprised getting to know the fact that this is just how our civilization really has adjusted to life. But considering that we are going to be in the clear, it's safe to say I'm more than just happy about how we've actually survived every single titch of what 2021 basically has done to us. And so I do give you a solemn goodbye for now.